Hi, I'm Heather from Wholehearted Homemaking, and I wanted to share some of my favorite homeschool books with you today. First up, I have For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer McCauley. I recommend it for all parents, not just homeschool parents, because it really helps you to consider your why, your purpose for educating your child in any way, and so that you can prayerfully consider what philosophy you believe is best and know without a shadow of a doubt what you're doing. Okay, you may have doubts, but it does help you get on the right path. On the back, she says, education is an adventure. It's about people, children, life, reality. And that's really what it's all about. This book is wonderful for those with young kids, but it's also been beneficial for me to go back and reread with my older kids, kind of keeping my focus on what we're doing. Next up is a book that's really probably not homeschool specific, but I think all parents should read. It's Adventuring Together by Greta Eskridge. I absolutely love this book. It is life-changing for our family because it helped me to view how we do what we do. When we go to a museum, when we go on a hike, what is our purpose and why are we doing it? And to really focus on not doing the lessons specifically, but to get time together and to build those relationships, and to encourage me to do so, to be brave and go out and do it, to find others to do that with. I have absolutely loved this book. It is wonderful. She has lots of anecdotes and then also practical how-tos, and it has just been a true blessing to my family. Next up is Homeschool Bravely by Jamie Erickson. Now, this is the book I needed when I was first starting out with homeschooling. Wasn't sure what I was doing, whether we should or whatnot. It is such a blessing because Jamie takes you back to the scriptures over and over. She takes you back to seeking the Holy Spirit's guidance. And that is what I love about all of Jamie's books, but this one specifically will help you kind of look at that why of why you're homeschooling. What's the purpose? Why do we do what we do? And it is just, it's got a lot of anecdotes again, but it has some just things to think through. I really love this reminder. She says, in his kindness to me, God's shown me that in trying to do everything perfectly, I end up doing a lot of things with mediocrity. And the book is just full of those kind of little nuggets that help you kind of think through that. Okay, by chasing perfection, I'm actually not doing the best of everything. I'm doing the least or the mediocre. And just so many nuggets of wisdom in this book. It's such a blessing. There is an audiobook. That's what I listened to first, and it is wonderful. Next up is Teaching from Rest by Sarah Mackenzie. This came out a long time ago, but it is such a great book. I read it almost every summer. Not necessarily because it's a how-to, though she does have some practical tips in there, but because Sarah Mackenzie keeps taking me back to my purpose. You see a theme here. Why are we doing things? And to not overstuff your curriculum. I actually didn't read it this last summer, and I probably should have because I overstuffed my curriculum. But you can still have a rigorous and beautiful, beneficial education and still be at a place of rest. And that is what her encouragement is in here. And I wanted to read you a quote in here as well. God made a true, beautiful, and good world to relish. Don't get so distracted by 36 weeks of carefully plotted lesson plans that you miss the glory that is already yours for the taking. So Teaching from Rest, again, really focusing on the relationship over the curriculum, focusing on the purpose of why we're homeschooling, and finding rest even in our work. Next up is a 2-for-1, and that's because it's the same author, but there are 2 books actually. She has tons of books, but you will recognize Miss Sally Clarkson. So I have, the first book here is Clay and Sally, her husband, and she both wrote this while they were still teaching their children. This is a behemoth of a book, guys. You probably are not going to just sit down and read the whole thing through. You might, and kudos to you if you can. I actually read the first few units or sections, and then I started piecing out like, okay, well, I really want to know more about this specific topic. I'm going through it that way. And over time, I read through the whole book, but you could do it whichever way you want. There is so much information in this book going down through why we are educating, how to focus on the heart of our children before we focus on the mind of our children, and how to make it balance all together, talking about all the different types of educational philosophies, tips and tricks, book lists, all kinds of things are in this particular book. On the side here of this particular, this is the 4th edition, So on the side, there are all kinds of annotations, statistics, quotes, all kinds of things to help you throughout there. So like we have a Karen Andriola quote here. There was some scripture here, quote from Daniel Webster, all kinds of things, statistics, definitions, all kinds of things. There's a how to create your own curriculum and what to consider when you are looking at any other kind of curriculum. At the back, there are book lists. There are also book lists on those side notes. So there's book lists galore in here. And then there's also all kinds of forms. You can also get these forms on their website, Educating the Wholehearted Child. And all right, I think that's what the website is. Check Google. But these forms are great for planning. I actually use these to kind of focus and figure out how I'm going to create my own plans for our curriculum. And then there's Awaking Wonder. This is kind of after they've graduated their children. This is the reflections. There are still some practical how-tos and just more of a this is what we did, not a you need to do this, but this is what we did and here's what happened. And this is just such a beautiful book. The first part really focuses on just creating that wonder in our children and helping us even have a passion for that. And then it goes through, it really focuses on faith and education connecting and how we really want to live that out in our lives. And I really appreciate Sally's words. I find her to be one of my favorite authors, as many people do, but she has so much encouragement in here, and it's wonderful to get from somebody who didn't necessarily follow a box curriculum. She's not selling a curriculum here. It's a book. She's just telling you what happened in her life and how it's worked out for her children. And to me, that's the kind of mentorship and advice I'm looking for. One of her themes throughout is really connecting their heart back to the Lord. And I love that. And one of the quotes I wanted to share with you is keeping God at the center. Jesus took his disciples with him everywhere. So we did as well. Passing on values, truth, vision, morals happen in big and small moments as we are walking through life. So just wonderful nuggets of truth like that we are keeping our eyes and our hearts focused on Jesus while educating our children and showing them the wonder that God has created. And so I have Home Education by Charlotte Mason. Charlotte Mason is, of course, my favorite. It is just, she has methods that work really well for me personally as the teacher and for my children. We have been using Charlotte Mason for many, many years, but it all starts with her first volume, Home Education. This is for ages 9 and under, but if you have older kids and are homeschooling, I recommend reading this too because she comes at some of the subjects from a slightly different vantage point than what you learned in a traditional school. I highly recommend it because she talks about those different subjects, but she also talks about habit training and then our role as a parent and really the authority that we're given by God to educate our children, whether it is to do it ourselves or it is to find someone who is going to honor God and that authority through their education. And so there are some wonderful, wonderful practical how-tos in here. It is a harder read. So if you find yourself struggling, I encourage you to find a local group to read with. On my blog, I have a read-along, which kind of goes through my narration and favorite quotes. Or you could do the audio versions. There's several audio versions online. I highly recommend those. You can also read it online. This is a beautiful hardbound copy from Living Book Press, which I love. But if money's tight for you, go find one of those free options. Ambleside Online, Charlotte Mason Poetry, have them for free. You can go and read her words, and I even tell you what page number so you can match up with your book group. There are other paperback versions, both from Living Book Press. Simply Charlotte Mason has one that has columns on the side so you can put your own notes. And then there's the one that has leaves on it. And then there's the old original prints that were the pink bound. Sadly, my Home Education in the pink bound was a victim to mold recently. But these are really, you can find it everywhere. So there's no excuse not to. But if you are struggling, try with the audio, find a book group, or there is a modern translation also on Ambleside. And you can do that option and kind of get a gist and understand. There are also summaries on Ambleside Online. Ambleside Online is kind of an overwhelming website for most homeschoolers. But if you're wanting to read Charlotte Mason's words, go click on their CM Volume Series tab, and you can find summaries, you can find modern translation, you can find the original. They're all there. Also, if you're looking for Spanish, I have a friend who is, I'm trying to think, I think it's Pedagogia. I can't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. I will link it in the description box below. But they do have a Spanish version translated of home education. And so that is really exciting also. So don't miss home education, even if you are not considering Charlotte Mason. It is a must read. All right, that wraps up all of my homeschooling books. Well, not all my homeschooling books, my favorites. And hopefully next week I'll be back sharing some of our rhythms and how we kind of pace our school days and what works and what hasn't worked. So I hope to see you then. Have a blessed day.